Hello and welcome to this video. It's Claire, and today I'm going to chat with you about the best and worst national parks in the US. I'm sorry if this is not the most well-lit video in the world. I think this is about as good as I'm gonna get it today. It's really rainy and overcast. I have all the lights on in the van, but this still just isn't the best lighting. I'm just gonna have to make do. So I have to start this video off by saying a couple things. One, I have not been to all 63 national parks. Not even close. I've been to 18. Now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm feeling some major imposter syndrome because I haven't even been to half of the national parks in this country, and I'm sitting here making a video about them like I'm some kind of seasoned expert. I'm obviously not an expert. I've just spent a lot of time in national parks in the last year and a half, so I want to share with you what I've learned and what I know. Two, I visited all these national parks in my Freightliner Sprinter van, so my experience camping in my van is probably going to be different than somebody who is camping in a tent or stays at a resort. And three, obviously everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, so I may have loved or hated one particular park, and you may disagree, and that's okay. Share it respectfully in the comments. So, my top 3 favorite national parks that I've visited so far, starting at my all-time favorite number 1 is the Grand Tetons National Park in Wyoming, and this actually earned the number 1 spot in my previous video about my favorite locations of all time in the US. The Grand Tetons hold a special place in my heart just because they were so beautiful. This park is 310,000 acres, and you're gonna die when you hear how it got its name. So in early expeditions of the territory, explorers would approach the mountain range from a distance and they thought it looked like breasts. Yeah. So when people make fun of the Grand Tetons and these Grand Tetons, it's actually totally valid. What I love about the Grand Tetons is it's in close proximity to both Jackson Hole, Wyoming and Yellowstone National Park. We personally had such a great experience here because this was one of 2 national parks that we have visited in the past 18 months where you could easily find a place to park overnight and not have to have a reservation ahead of time to do so. We found a free campsite and we parked there for 2 or 3 nights. The only other national park we have visited where it wasn't a big headache trying to find a place to park was Badlands National Park in South Dakota. Number 2 is Denali National Park in Alaska. Holy cow, this park is amazing. We visited in August and it was absolutely freezing. So just be aware that summer temperatures in Alaska can be quite cold. Denali was great because there is a super legit bus tour that you can board and do a really in-depth tour of the park. We saw bears, moose, elk, all sorts of wild animals on the bus tour, and it was so worth it. The bus ride does cost money and it takes a good chunk of time to complete the journey, so just something to be aware of. There's also sled dog demonstrations, which was so fun. And you can actually walk through the kennels where all the huskies are housed. So of course, a sucker for dogs like me, I was absolutely attending that sled dog demonstration. So earlier I said the Tetons were 310,000 acres. That is nothing compared to Denali. Denali National Park is 6 million acres. They're quite strict there about overnight camping due to preservation efforts, which is a good thing. So we were not able to park overnight in Denali. We ended up driving every night quite a ways to sleep. I want to say 30 minutes maybe. And then we would drive back to the park each morning when it opened. My number 3 is Acadia National Park in Maine. We visited Acadia in the fall and it was absolutely beautiful. The hikes there we did were some of the best hikes I've ever done in my life. You can do a sunrise hike and you'll be one of the first people in the nation to see the sun on that particular day, which is pretty cool. The Beehive Loop Trail was such an adventure. I absolutely loved it. It's only a 1.5 mile loop, but it requires climbing up rungs that are screwed into the side of the landscape, and you end up what feels like on top of the world with immaculate views. Don't do the Beehive Loop if you're afraid of heights though. Acadia is 47,000 acres, so significantly smaller than the other 2 parks that I've mentioned so far, and it's in close proximity to Bar Harbor, Maine. This is an adorable little town with lots of wine bars, shopping, restaurants to get that lobster that Maine is so famous for, and we actually did a cheesecake tasting. Yum. So when it comes to national parks that I did not have a good experience at, it is not the actual park itself that I didn't like. I just happened to have bad experiences there for one reason or another. I'm sure when the day comes for me to return to these said parks, I will have a wonderful time and enjoy them greatly. And I can confidently say there is not a single national park in this country that sucks. However, I of course have my complaints. So the Grand Canyon, it was of course for obvious reasons amazing. Seriously, it was like looking at an image of a backdrop. It was so beautiful it looked fake. However, we visited at a time of year, it was spring, but the winter weather was still really lingering. So you can imagine the difficulty of trying to do a hike that goes down into a canyon. It's steep, there's ledges and drop-offs, and every inch of the ground is covered in a sheet of very slippery ice. We hiked down into the canyon one way about a half hour, and we ended up turning around coming back because we just were not prepared for those conditions. It was just really treacherous. We didn't have the adequate gear needed for that type of hike. Okay, this part may just be me being petty. Actually, it definitely is me being petty, but we were warned ahead of time that the rangers at the Grand Canyon can be kind of rude. Not all, okay, but some. I'm sure at every national park there are people that work there who are rude or who can be rude, but I can personally attest that at the Grand Canyon, they were in fact super rude, like Karen levels of rude. I seriously don't understand how you could literally be paid to spend your days in the beautiful outdoors, not only in the beautiful outdoors, but in a literal national park, one of America's greatest beauties, and still be such a miserable, unhappy person. So though the park itself was of course awesome, I just left with a bad taste in my mouth. The other not so amazing experience I had was at Joshua Tree National Park. Again, I'm not saying I don't like the park. It was cool. I honestly was just, I think, a little underwhelmed. I think I had really high expectations going into Joshua Tree, and it just didn't really live up to the image that I had of it in my head. I also think I definitely could have thrown myself more into the opportunities at this park. We didn't do any hikes there, and normally at national parks we'll do at least one hike. We just drove through and we would hop out to explore at different checkpoint areas, so this might be on me. Please give me some recommendations down in the comments of this video so I know which national park I need to prioritize next. Making this video was a wake-up call for me because it made me realize I've only been to 18 parks, which is barely scraping the surface of all the beautiful opportunities that await. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the bell notification. See you next week. Bye!